Get Pucked. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Get Pucked podcast. Vito and Matt here. No Dave, unfortunately, but we've been gone for so long that we said the show must go on. Dave gave us his blessing, so here we are. Vito, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Back on the road, back on the show. All of this. Let's have fun.
Back on the road. Had to go up the stairs to sit down in the office. Yeah. But
Yeah.
all right. So it's just you and me. So I guess we're gonna just be shooting the shit about some stuff. So a couple things, I guess. Obviously, we're not gonna do this whole big recap. I mean, clearly, people who are listening have been following the Habs. You know that it's been rough. It's been quite a few losses piling up. So everybody out there who's Team Pro Tank is cheering and happy. And then occasionally, when they string together a win. I don't think they've done back-to-back wins yet in some time, but when they get a win, you hear a lot of clamoring. You get people that are happy about it. The majority seem to not be so. Regardless, we're keeping an eye on it, and they're in the bottom, I think, 6 or 7 teams, right? I think that's what they're at, 27 or something.
Yeah, they are 27th, exactly.
Yeah,
they're
and we were
tied for 26th, but whatever.
Exactly, but you and I were talking about this the other day, right? So what was fascinating was from 27th all the way to 20th. It's like a 5-point swing. So it's still very, very close. You know what I mean? Like, could they go on a run and start putting together some wins? And could some other teams start putting together some losses? And suddenly from 27,
not with these injuries.
Well, that changed everything, right? So we had everything kind of lined up what we were going to talk about today. But lo and behold, after last game against New York, the team went through a meat grinder. Out is Slavkovsky. Out is Drouin, who we just found out at the recording time tonight, he's out. He seemed to have been injured. Yola Armia is out. Evans is out. Yeah, so they lost a lot of dudes. Jake
Matheson
Allen
is back. Matheson's
back. So Matheson's back, but like I was saying the other day, right? I don't see how any one guy comes back in the lineup and suddenly everything goes back to the way it was in the beginning of the season. So the team is not going to put together a string of wins, is my point. Jake Allen seems to be hurt. We have no real timeline that I can necessarily remember about him. And Samuel Montembeault has been playing now for 5 straight games.
It's his 5th game tonight.
And as fate would have it, he's been actually doing quite good. You got to give him his dues. He's been doing quite good. I like to rip on Monty as much as the next person. I mean, do I see him as the future goaltender of this team? No, I do not. But he has been playing really well. So, I guess ultimately, like, are you concerned at all that something could happen here and that magically they're going to start putting together some wins and they're going to be that weird, 20, 21, or they're sitting 27 and under, basically. And there's
that. If that would happen, that would be a disaster for Montreal this year.
No doubt.
At least from a draft perspective. Now, someone would say, how is it a disaster? The cupboard is full. You're right. The cupboard is full. But this is a deep draft that if there's any draft that you want Montreal to come out with a good piece, it's this one. Right? They're not a contender. They're not even going to contend for a playoff spot. So finishing at the middle of the pack just to fall short or just to, string together a couple of wins and build the players' confidence or whatever the case may be is not a good thing for the Montreal Canadiens in the long run. So, yeah, to me, in my opinion, while it might be a bit dramatic, it'd be a disaster if Montreal finishes somewhere like just a few spots behind the playoff spot because they strung together a couple of wins.
Yeah, but I'm talking more like probability, right? Like, I think anybody who's anybody would admit that would be a terrible place for them to finish. But like, there's people. Basically, I bring it up because whenever they get a win, everybody who's Team Pro Tank is losing their mind on social media. They lose their mind. This is the worst thing that could have happened. They can't win. I mean,
well,
clearly,
I'm going to take it even.
They're not going to lose every game.
I'll take it further. Right now, those people who are Pro Tank are not even talking about Montreal's pick so much. It's the Florida pick. Florida's stringing together some wins, and they're like, that's it. We don't have 2 picks in the top 10 anymore. Florida's going to make the playoffs. Listen, Florida's on a run right now, but things can change. Schedules are getting a little harder. Just like they won a couple, they could lose a couple. Do I think the Florida Panthers are a bottom 10 team? No, they're not. I don't think
No,
so.
they were playing well
They
under their skill set
Well, they
for
had
a long
injuries
time.
too, right? Barkov was
Yeah.
hurt for a while, came back, got hurt again. Ekblad got hurt. They just had those injuries, and there was consistency issues with Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight at a point was like, okay, everyone's saying he's going to be the number one goalie, and Bobrovsky's basically a $9-10 million goalie just sitting on the bench now. And now it's Bobrovsky because Spencer Knight got hurt.
Yeah.
So the Florida Panthers, that pick, guys, if it gets into the top 15, be happy.
Yeah, I mean, so for a long time there, that was another thing we wanted to talk about over the Christmas break and stuff, and we were kind of just musing about what, little fun trade scenarios and stuff. And I'll ask it anyways, just out of curiosity's sake. Say Florida's luck starts to run sour again, and they start to drop back into like some decent lottery odds. Let's say Montreal lands the second overall pick and the third overall pick. They get 2 and 3. It'd be like that would be like winning the lottery anyways. But let's just say now a team is out there and they obviously get, another team gets the first overall and pretty much,
So
I mean,
Columbus or Chicago.
there'll be no surprise. It'll be Bedard who goes first overall. I can't see how anybody else would do it. So essentially the question is this. If you were this team, if you were Kent Hughes, if you were Jeff Gordon, and you had 2 and 3, would you trade 2 and 3 to get 1?
Ooh. Okay. So it's crazy to think. I think some people would crucify me for this because 2 and 3, it's big. You're talking about some key players that they basically make up a line, really. And
arguably, whoever goes 2, 3, maybe even 4 this year, a lot of people are making the argument that if any of those 1, 2, 3, or 4 of this year were in last year's draft, they would have gone first.
Well, yeah, I could see that.
It's big, man. That's big.
You know what? I'm normally the person that would say no, I wouldn't do that trade. But given what I saw and what I have been seeing from Connor Bedard, I make that trade for the Montreal Canadiens sake.
You make that trade?
I make that trade. I just don't think they do it. But I would make that trade right then and there. There's so much to be excited about. You can literally look and say you got somebody who comes into your team, and by all accounts, he's a generational talent for what they're saying, right?
It looks that way.
Get their first one,
yeah,
probably Carey Price, but I mean before that there would be.
Yeah, and it's hard to put goaltenders in the same category. I know it's not fair, but typically you don't talk about the goaltender being the generational guy. But you're right about Price. But I think what you said is actually the best answer you could have said. It's like, would you do it? Yeah, you probably do it. But would they do it? Having 2 and 3? No, they probably wouldn't do it.
Some people are going to say it's crazy. 2 and 3, they're going to make that. They're going to do it without thinking, and maybe they would.
Oh, I don't think they do it without thinking.
It wouldn't surprise me. They would think about it, and it wouldn't surprise me either that whatever team, let's say it's Columbus or Chicago, if they know Montreal's willing to offer 2 and 3, they'd look at Montreal, say 2, 3, and something else. Just because I know you wanted that. If you're willing to sacrifice 2 and 3, then you're willing to push the envelope just a little more.
The age old. Oh, you're willing to pay me $100 for it? Well, then I think you're willing to pay me $150 for it, aren't you?
Well, basically. So it wouldn't surprise me if it would be like 2, 3, and something else. And now you're talking and you say, okay, that's starting to get rich.
But, I mean, I would imagine at 2 and 3, again, with knowing who the players and the stock caliber of these draft picks are going to be, I imagine whatever that extra thing is won't be that big of a deal. It won't really make people be like, oh, man, that was such an overpay. That being said,
I'm going to turn it around on you. Let me turn it around on you. What if they don't win 2 and 3 and it's 2 and 10 and they say, okay, 2, 10 and Caufield, are you going to do it?
No. I'll tell you why no. No, because again, getting a guy at 2 is basically like getting a first overall pick in another draft. So you're getting a top prospect. Maybe not generational like Bedard, but top. At 10, you're also getting probably, well, you never guaranteed, but like a very, very high probability player that will ultimately get into the NHL. again, super deep draft. So you're playing the probabilities. And trading Caufield, again, it's not so much like being a fan of the kid and really liking him on the team and what he brings. It's the sheer matter of if you trade him out, you now have another hole that you have to replace. You can't just keep giving things away and like changing problem for problem. You know what I mean? Like Caufield might be this team's first 40+ goal scorer in decades. So why would I do that? I'd rather go and take the second overall pick.
For Connor Bedard, you would be getting a more well-rounded package, especially offensively, and you're getting somebody who can shoot, who has a shot that's probably in the same level of Caufield.
Well, I'll tell you this much. All right, maybe this is a little sacrilege to say, but I'll tell you this much: Cole Caufield, the little guy that he is, and everybody had the question marks, has proven that he can play at this level and proven that he can score at this level.
No.
I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that Connor Bedard doesn't come into the league and become the next McDavid. It's more likely than not. But at the same time, he is still unproven in the NHL. He's never laced up and played a game in the NHL. So at the end of the day, you really don't know. And that's what it's all coming down to when it comes to prospects. I can't give away something that I know is a superstar player, plus a second overall pick in a massively deep draft, plus another high pick. You said a 10th. I mean, that is an insanely big package to give.
100%.
Now,
that's why I brought it up. Because 2 and 3 in Caufield is too rich. It's way too rich.
Well, no. 2-3 Caufield, I never do. Tell me,
what I'm saying?
Tell me it's like, say things go real south. Tell me it's, I don't know, it's 11 and 17.
They're not going to do that.
Well, exactly. But like, say the picks are that much lower and they want Caufield. I still probably don't do it. But now I'm thinking to myself, okay. So 11, 17, I have another pick in the first. Maybe I move some players. I get another one. Caufield leaving is going to hurt so bad. But you bring in Bedard. I actually entertain that one a little bit more for sure. But again, I can't. First off, I think bottom line, Kent Hughes and Gorton, if you mention Caufield's name, they're saying no. Regardless of what the trade is. I think it's a no. Personally. Unless if well, and it wouldn't happen, but unless first overall for him straight up, but that would never happen. So anything with Caufield in it is a no. That's a no.
Any team who would make that trade would be stupid.
Yeah, they'd be dumb. So I don't think that that's the play. I can't see his name being out there and being moved. Again, I don't really think that you're not gonna see any main piece of this team move packaged with picks to move up in the draft. It'll be another prospect that we have, one of our better ones perhaps, with our two top picks.
I will say this. Montreal doesn't land Bedard. There's no way that any team will be able to acquire that pick. No way.
I don't think so either.
There's no way. Montreal wouldn't be able to do it. Doesn't matter how many assets they throw at it. And they won't do it. Everybody, even you have general managers like Jim Rutherford and everybody else that are all talking about everybody wants that first.
Yeah, for
everybody
sure.
will want that first. Okay, this is what Connor Bedard has shown. He's shown that he's got that talent, he's got that skill that's just on another level. Now, does it translate to the NHL? Remains to be seen. I think it will.
Yeah, it likely will.
It likely will. But there's always that little bit of a question mark. There's always that little bit of, okay, will it translate to the NHL? I think it will. His frame is very similar. Like, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's got a very similar frame to like a Jack Hughes in terms of stature, size, height.
He's not a 5'6" dude who's doing like an insane thing. Like, he's a regular sized guy. He's not a Slavkovsky size,
no.
But he's a regular NHLer. Like, I don't think that's going to be. I mean, he's probably even on a little bit on the smaller side, but he's not very small. I just think the only way that number one pick moves, only way. There's a handful of scenarios that I can see happening. Say a team who just missed the playoffs. They have a good team. They don't necessarily need a Bedard, but they, maybe one or two little pieces. They somehow get they strike lightning, right? and boom, they land the first overall. And suddenly Montreal's sitting there and they have, I don't know, whatever, 4-9.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
It
matter.
likely it
Even a good
likely
team,
won't matter, but you can at least have the
Matt,
conversation.
no, you're not going to have that conversation because even a very good team that just missed the playoffs and somehow managed to, they struck gold and they won that lottery pick. They're that much better with somebody
Oh,
like Connor
I
Bedard.
don't
They
disagree. I
might, they
don't
might,
disagree.
they might move another asset that they have just to say, okay, Connor Bedard's spot is reserved on this lineup.
I mean, so realistically speaking, the only scenario where it can play well, it's funny. We're trying to find ways, but any team who gets
Yeah.
Bedard is going to want Bedard. But let's just say it is a whole. It goes to a team that is in 100% rebuild. It goes to Chicago.
Look at what teams some teams have done just to try to better their odds or better their chances to lose as many freaking games as possible to get to the bottom. Chicago's the number one example. They sold everything and they're on the verge of selling the last two pieces.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Columbus
yeah, but
basically
hold on.
did the opposite. They went to get players in
Yeah,
Johnny
but
Gaudreau
for whatever reason, it's
but
just not working. Columbus.
They haven't addressed the biggest issue they have. Boone Jenner can't be their number one center. They're scratching and benching Jack Roslovich. I mean, what are they doing there? Werenski unfortunately got hurt real bad and it was practically a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, what the heck are you guys doing?
And
then you look at the other teams behind that, San Jose. Look what San Jose did. New GM came in and it's like, all right, start getting rid of everybody. Start with Brent Burns. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Logan Couture. There's rumors that they might retain salary to move Erik Karlsson, who, by the way, is leading the league for defensemen in points, and what a great time, But at the end of the day, his contract is $11 million, so that's where the challenge is. And then you start looking down the rest of the teams, and it's like, okay, every team has a glaring issue. Every team did certain things to try to position themselves for this draft. Whether they admit it or not is a different story, but they did it. People are not blind.
Well, you got Vancouver also. That's just I think a point or two ahead of Montreal right now. And you just had Rutherford come out and say they're done. Basically, he's going to offload this team. He's looking for trade. He's going to start to basically go for him.
He could say that as much as he wants, but he also admitted that it's going to be very tough to move and maybe even impossible to move some of the players.
I only see Chicago as realistically the team that really came out and just didn't care what anybody said or thought. They got rid of everybody they have. Likely Kane and Taves are going to be moved at the deadline. They'll have nothing. Ground floor. So now two scenarios can occur.
They even moved some of the
the Kirby Doc and stuff like this. Listen, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I really don't. But if you look at that team and you look at a team and they're saying to themselves, we really, really need to start stockpiling the prospects. They're the only place that you can say, and again, it won't happen because they're going to want to start to build their team around Bedard, so they'll take him anyways. But if you look at them and start to make an argument to them and say, and again, it will only work if you get 2 picks in the top 5. We got 2 picks in the top 5 in an incredibly deep draft. You can load up on 2 incredibly good prospects at the cost of getting the first.
We're talking about Vancouver.
No, we're talking about Chicago.
Okay, Chicago. Sorry, my bad.
I was
still focused on Vancouver because the Jim Rutherford conference came out yesterday and everything he said. But I mean, I'm just taking a look at their contracts, right? And Vancouver's got some nice pieces, but they're pieces that not many teams can absorb right now. But
that's the biggest problem. It's the cap.
And Rutherford did say or hint out that everybody's pretty much available except for Elias Pettersson. So when you look at it, everybody's available. I think Brock Besser could move. I think a team would take a chance on Brock Besser. They'd have to retain salary for sure. But how does a team not take a look at trying to acquire Quinn Hughes if he is available, or even Thatcher Demko?
Absolutely.
There's a shortage. There's a shortage of goaltenders in the NHL. There's going to be teams lining up for Thatcher Demko.
Yeah,
no doubt. What I mean? So
no doubt.
I just don't know if these are pieces. I don't think they are, with the exception of Besser. That these are pieces that they're going to be able to move now. The only person that can be moved, and it's our team's going to be willing to pay a king's ransom for it, is Bo Horvat.
Yeah. But then again, that's Vancouver, and that's their problem. I want to bring it back to the Habs because that's the most important place that we want to talk about. And we're talking about a team right now. Just again, I don't remember the last time this team was proper healthy for an extended period of time. it's actually quite comical at this point.
Well, I think I wrote a tweet on behalf of the Get Puck account this morning, and I said at this point just give the Laval Rocket players a Habs jersey and let them play on both in both
I
leagues.
mean,
Obviously, you can't do that.
listen,
It's
if
a
you
joke.
wanna if you wanna be glass half full, this season we all kind of thought would be a throwaway. It is the premium opportunity for this management to get a look at the guys they have in the AHL and see what they can do at the NHL level. I really like what I've seen from Ylonen so far. I honestly believe this kid is going to make the team out of camp next year. I
Or be
think
traded.
the what you've seen now so far, that kind of level of engagement, his shot, the playmaking that he was doing the past few games, I've been actually very impressed with him. And you wouldn't have had this opportunity if guys didn't go down. Now, we saw what our defense is. They basically iced an entire line, the whole top six of rookies practically. So you're seeing what your rookies are. So you know what you're going to have. You know Goalie has definitely got a spot. I mean, Harris also been playing very, very good. Kovacevic is there. He's a good 6 or 7 guy.
Oh,
I mean, you know what you got with these guys.
Yeah, Montreal's not going to have an issue on defense, especially on the left side. They won't have that. They've got prospects that, whether they're the ones that are playing now, the rookies that are playing now, or in the cupboard, they've got that. That's not the issue. The right side is a bit of an issue. I mean, outside of Kovacevic, Justin Barron, and David Savard, there's not a whole, and Logan Mailloux, if you want to go there, on the right side, there's really not that much.
Not yet. No, for sure not. But I do think it's fascinating because instead of thinking to yourself, you have to find in the free agency in the offseason of this upcoming offseason, we got to find 2-3 guys to put on defense. I don't really think that that's the case anymore. I mean, they should really focus on 2 different places now. Like, really, they got the
Goalie
up
and
front,
number
your
2
top
center.
6. What's that?
Goalie and number 2 center.
That's right. That's right. They need to look at the goalie position. I think they need to either draft a goalie, like one of the better goalies of the draft would be a consideration, or even better, you have a plethora of defenseman prospects that are out there. You got a bunch of other guys that you find expendable. You got to start knocking the door of teams like Buffalo for Devin Levy and yeah.
They got to start doing that, and this is my reason why. You can draft a goalie. There's never anything wrong with drafting players that you need or to fill that specific position or organizational depth. That being said, where Montreal is and the players that they have, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield, Slafkovsky is very young, so I won't use him as an example, but Caden Gooley, etc. If you look at their age, they're still very young. They really are. But if you go with a goalie that you draft, it's going to take a few years before that goalie could come knock on the door and really mean something to the roster.
Yeah.
And at that point, you can't beat Father Time. At that point, by no means Suzuki and Caufield going to be old, but they're going to be at an age where they're most likely going to want to contend. So if Montreal can, they might have to sacrifice an asset or 2 or whatever that package may be to go and get a goalie, a prospect goalie that's very good, that people know is full of potential, but is already a bit further along in their development.
I think you're nailing it. I mean, bottom line, I think the smartest play for them is to go and acquire a prospect from another team that like you say, one that's further along is a really good way to put it. There's a couple of them out there. They got to go see what the ask is and see what they're prepared to part ways with. And then they got a lot of money in the offseason. A lot of contracts are going to come off the books, and you got to make a splash, man. I know Monahan.
I wonder, for example, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I wonder what Nashville's going to do. Nashville's got UC Saros, who's a very good goalie. He's doing very great.
One of the top.
One of the top right now. But they also got Askarov that's there. And we saw him play against Montreal, and you saw what he's capable of doing. And he might not be ready to be a number one, an everyday number one, but you saw what his potential, what he's capable of doing.
You kick the tires, but I can't see them parting with him.
I don't see him parting, but like it's going to be something to really consider and think about down the road, or unless Nashville's going to ride it out for another 2-3 years, and then who knows, maybe they'll decide to move Saros. But at that point, it's like
they're going to do something. It'll be interesting to see how they go and play it out, like what exactly they think they're going to do. Do they try to just go and get a a 1B or a 2A and they go tandem with Montembeault because we don't think that Primo's ready yet, and they just see what another year buys them? Maybe. Listen,
the last time my team did that was Washington, from what I can remember, and it was when they had
Holtby and
Vanacek.
Samsonov?
No, there was Samsonov and I just said his name, and Vanacek. Look where they are. Samsonov, okay, is still sharing the load in Toronto with Matt Murray, but they let go of Vanacek, and look what he's doing in New Jersey.
That's right.
So the 1A, 1B doesn't typically work. I mean, Vancouver back then with Walker and Schneider,
but those were two guys. Those were two goalies that both thought themselves the number ones. If you explain the situation to Montembeault, and he knows that he's going to be, not doing exactly regular backup stuff, but you're bringing in the other guy to be the main guy, or vice versa. The other guy comes in and he does 33% of the load, and Monty does this. I mean, whatever. You just buy yourself some time. And in this scenario, Jake Allen obviously is not here, so he's been traded for obviously something of value in return.
Oh man, there's not a player on this roster that the Pro Tank fans want to move as Jake Allen. That's a player they want to move today.
I know.
They want him, and it's like, man, he is just a good guy.
But he would be a perfect piece to move this year for a first to a team that wants a strong second goaltender.
But how many teams are going to be able to? They don't, because they signed Allen to an extension, and albeit it's a digestible contract. It's not horrible, right?
It's not that much.
I believe it's 3.4 for 2 more years after this one, and it's like, are teams willing to commit to Jake Allen for an additional 2 years after this one as their backup, with the cap, knowing that the cap may only go up by $1 million?
It depends. It depends the situations. I mean, listen, most GMs that know they're going to the playoffs, that want and see that their team has the capabilities to maybe make it all the way, they're going to do what they need to do to give them the best chance, because they're going
to address the other positions, defense.
I don't disagree. It would have to be
a backup goalie, and sacrificing certain assets to get a goalie that would likely warm up your bench. Like, okay, anything could happen. Your main goalie could get injured, and you want to have that guy there.
I think that's the only way he moves, because you're right. You don't make a move for a backup goaltender for a playoff push. You don't. If you got a guy, your main guy, and he's down, and you're riding your current backup plus your AHL guy who's called up, and they're both, sketch, then you make a move for Jake Allen. You bring Jake Allen in as your primary. You keep your backup as your backup, and hopefully your main guy comes back while you're deeper in the playoffs. That's the only scenario that makes sense, and even that is thin. I think you're much, much, much more likely to see an Edmondson being moved. Maybe a Hoffman. I can't possibly see Dantonov moving at this point.
Dantonov's not moving. I don't even see Hoffman being moved because.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, Monahan. There's a lot of talk with him and Colorado, but Monahan, he's got to come back and play games, man.
Yeah, but even if he doesn't play games, right? Monahan has proven that by him being out of the roster, look what happened to the Montreal Canadiens when he got out of the roster. They fell, they crumbled pretty bad, and they went on a massive losing streak.
Only because they have zero players that can fill the spot that he filled.
But either way,
which meant you overloaded Suzuki, and that crippled your first line.
Right, but it overloaded Suzuki. But at the same time, he was a leader and a calming presence. Clearly, he's been through it. He knows what it's like to be at the pro level through the ups and downs and whatever. So Monahan's value is still where it needs to be. The question is, at a point we were questioning, is Monahan's value even higher than just a simple first or a late first or a mid first?
If he didn't get hurt, I would say there's a very good chance it's a first and maybe a later pick.
I still think Montreal gets a first for Monahan. It's just it won't be. It probably won't be a team that's just trying to make a playoff. They're like just trying to get in. It's going to come from maybe a Colorado.
Yeah, but does Colorado cough up their first this year?
They don't care. Those guys are trying to contend. Their cupboard is full. They got other kids and prospects in their pipeline that could play. They've got stuff. That's not the issue. Maybe Colorado says, okay, we're not going to do the first, but we're going to give we'll offer you a player that we knew you liked in the past. Who knows?
Yeah,
But
could be.
they need a second line center.
No, no doubt, no doubt. There's gonna be movement. I think it's fair to say there's gonna be movement. I don't know exactly who and when and how, but I think the more bigger question that we have to ask is when. Is it better that
It's
they start loading off pieces now, or
I
their
think
team's just not buying yet? Is that the problem? And if they could have traded, they
that's the
would have.
problem. That's the problem. I
Yeah.
think Montreal would have started moving certain pieces. I just think that a lot of teams are going to wait as close as possible to the trade deadline,
Yeah.
and it's not only about uh, teams asking for too much for their assets. It's more about trying to accumulate as much cap space as they possibly can, get as many dollars as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
right now there's, I think, what is it, 17 teams are playing are in LTIR right now.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that 17 teams, that's extreme.
It sucks. It sucks because it is an exciting part of the sport is to see these kind of players move and like go into their new team and stuff. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that because of the cap the way it is, teams that want to make moves, that want to bolster their lineups, they can't. So Montreal's up there too. It's not like they can all of a sudden say, "Listen, give us back a bunch of players, and we'll just absorb them in and deal with it then." That's next year. That's next year if they don't spend up to the cap. But this year, I think they're way up there. If not, they're past it.
No,
I mean,
currently they've got 5.1 million in cap space. Again, and most of that's due to LTIR,
yeah, it's
right?
the LTIR. Yeah,
Right. But I mean, what's interesting is that across the NHL, there is only one team that has the max number of contracts on their roster, and it's the San Jose Sharks. They've got 50 out of 50 contracts. Every other team is below 50. There's maybe a handful that are at 49 or 50, but that's crazy. It's
they can't
very
afford them.
very it's
They
very
they
tight.
pay the players are paid. Well, I mean, which is ridiculous to say because they're one of the lowest paid athletes in all the major sports. But the way the cap is, you got players that are just taking up too much money. You just can't do anything. You can't do the gymnastics that you need to do. That's why this offseason is going to be so much fun for this team. They're going to have so much money available to do things. And that's a very, very exciting prospect for a team that's in the rebuild phase. They can all of a sudden acquire like just things that you wouldn't imagine is available simply because other teams can't afford it. And it's fun. And it brings me to a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois, for example. I mean, he's been in the news left, right, and center recently, specifically because Winnipeg is playing Montreal actually right now, as we're recording.
Just so
Does
that
this guy?
everybody
Does
up to
this
date,
guy? Is he the guy
Jets just
who they're going
scored.
to go make the big splash? Yeah, I know. I saw. Is he? Do you see him as the guy that they're going to go make the big splash for?
No,
Because he's going to command a big dollar.
no,
A big dollar.
I don't think they're going to trade for him because given okay. First off, look at the way he's playing this year. Okay, I think
Like
he's on
phenomenal.
pace. He's on pace for like 92 or 93 points, something along those
Yep.
lines.
Yep.
Okay, so right now his value has never been higher. So if you're looking at if you want to look as an example, look at somebody like Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk last year said he ain't going to re-sign with Calgary. So he forced the GM's hand to move him, which we all were very surprised, and I think everyone was very surprised that Treliving, giving the hand he was dealt, was still able to acquire the assets that he did in Huberdeau, Uyghur, and so on.
Big time.
So that in itself was quite shocking. But now I'm not saying Pierre-Luc Dubois' value is exactly where Tkachuk is. Tkachuk did put up 100 points, but Montreal's not going to give up anything close to a similar package or something that would equate to whatever Florida gave up to acquire Tkachuk. Montreal's not going to do the same thing that just to acquire Pierre-Luc Dubois when he's a free agent the following year. There's no way. I'd be surprised. The only way that Winnipeg loses that trade is if Pierre-Luc Dubois comes out at the end of the season and says, "I am not re-signing with you, no matter what. You can get 1 year of RFA from me. Try to work out whatever package you can, but then teams are going to know I'm not re-signing with you. I'm only signing with one team." So that makes the negotiation hard because that means they can only negotiate with one team.
I don't I don't think he ever came. I mean, he admitted that he wants to play for the Habs. We know that. That was said. He said it. It's a fact. He said that, yes, it would be great. He also said that all his family's here, his friends here. He grew up here. He's got a foundation here. All things are pointing to the guy would love to be here.
But things could change, right? His dynamic and the situation that he was in last year when he was saying that in Winnipeg was totally different than it is this year. This year he's playing on the top line. He's playing with Kyle Connor and Ehlers. Bonus coming out and saying, "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you stay here." And they're buttering him up and saying,
well, I think they're first in the West too. They were terrible last year, and this year they're actually very, very good. So yeah, winning changes things.
Yeah, unless Pierre-Luc Dubois himself says, "Hey, look, thank you, I appreciate everything," and it put a better taste in my mouth before leaving. But my dream is still to be a Montreal Canadian. Unless he outright says it, you can't count Winnipeg out right now. I mean, he's now past Mark Scheifele on that in the middle.
I mean, deep down, I can't tell you how it's going to happen. But if you were to ask me today, do you think in the next, let's say 2 years, to be fair, do I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be a Montreal Canadian? I do.
At what cost?
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out.
If next season he stays,
but I see it happening
to finish off his RFA years, right? Let's say, assuming that's what happens, he puts up another 90-point season. Okay, at this point, you're going to have Suzuki at 7.875.
Yep.
Caufield, assuming he hits anywhere between $7.5 and $8 million. Okay.
Yeah.
What's Dubois going to be 10? What are you going to pay? What are you going to eventually pay Goalie if he continues on his progression? What are you going to pay?
You figure it out. You figure it out then. You have to. If a guy like that is available and he wants to play for your team, and he's a 90-point player, you have to do it. If your 1-2 punch is going to be Suzuki and Dubois, you have to do it.
Yeah,
you have to.
I think the decision on that will be made or will be thought out once they see what they draft in this coming draft.
Yeah.
And what comes out of that. Because at the same time, Kirby Dach is starting to show a great progression. What you can see him.
He's not. I mean, let's be fair, right? I would love to see Dach become the guy we all want him to be. He can become a Dubois. That would be fantastic, obviously. But right now, he's currently, every point he gets right now is that much more of a career best. So he's trending up, and on this current, he's on a current path for I think 50-something points or something. So that's really, really good. That's really, really good. And he played the majority of his time on the wing. Yeah, he played his majority of the time on the wing on the top line. It's interesting to see what the progression would be. It'd be interesting to see how Kent Hughes and Gorton see the team. Do they see him as 2C? Or would they like to get a Dubois-type guy and put Dach on the wing and see that with continue that going on that top line?
My real question when it comes to Dubois is the following. Okay, yes, he's having a great season this year. Okay, he's on pace for 90-plus points this year. But it'll be the first time he does that. Is it just an anomaly? Is it a freak year for a guy who I'm not saying has no talent? He's a very talented player. But is he a 90-point player?
Yeah, we don't know. He'd have to do it again next year. You're absolutely right. Everybody has said this guy's got the talent. He's had the talent since Columbus. But there's always been something. He's been an underachiever. He has been. But now is he flourishing? Is now the time?
Well, is he flourishing, or is at the end of the day, is it because he's playing with Kyle Connor and now Nick Ehlers? I'm not going to say Nick Ehlers because Nick Ehlers just got back from injury, but playing with Kyle Connor surely helps.
Playing with Kyle Connor definitely helps. But again, it all comes down to how it's going to play out with the dynamic of him with Winnipeg, the fact that he came out and said it. Now, is he saying Montreal so that he can get a better deal next year? There's a lot of interesting things there.
I'm not suggesting that I don't want Pierre-Luc Dubois. I do. It just I'm still not willing to pay any price to get him. And I want to state the Habs need to be very cautious on how they manage their cap going forward, even if the cap is projected to go up in a couple of years from now, because they still got some contracts on their books that it's a bit of an anchor. Gallagher's contract.
I see a lot of guys. well, a lot of guys. I see certain cases for buyouts. I see definitely players that are going to be traded. I definitely see guys that are not being re-signed. They're going to bring up a lot of the kids who are going to be on their entry levels. They're going to have the room. They're going to have the room. And you're right. It'll be difficult in a couple years' time when you got guys that are going to get off their entry levels like a Goalie and stuff. And if they really continue to progress the way they're going to, they're going to want
and let's not forget, if Slavkovsky does become the person he is, he's going to come out.
He's going to get paid also. Yeah.
If he becomes the player that we hope that he can become, he's going to come out with a lot of money. You know, some people said, "Oh, he's like Rantanen." Let's say that's even true. Let's say it. It's really tough to ever compare somebody to Rantanen. Rantanen is a rare player. Okay, Rantanen ain't cheap. Rantanen's expensive. His cap is huge.
But the good news is it's a good problem to have. If you have all of these top guys and they're making good money here, it's because they're good players and they're playing for your team and your team is going to do well. If you got guys coming up the ranks that are also going to be that good, then all of a sudden you have guys that are able to be moved. You can trade a star. And then when you trade a star, you get a lot of good shit back. You get a lot of good players, prospects, picks, what have you. You must take some money for sure, but you make it work. That's a good problem to have. I would love the other problem. The other thing that's out there, he's never, ever going to sign with the Canadiens. But it's a fun guy to talk about. But let me just say it one more time. For those in the back, he's not going to sign here. But David Pastrnak.
He's not signed.
Would that not be wonderful?
News just literally came out that there's been significant progress in contract extension negotiations.
Until it's signed, it ain't signed. I'm just saying he's going to be a free agent. What does it hurt to go and call him? David, how are you? You see what we're doing in Montreal?
How much? You just want to start giving money to everybody. You wanted to make
blank checks, baby. Blank checks to everybody.
Blank checks, yeah.
Why not? Sure. Listen, it's just fun talk. He's one of the biggest, if not the biggest name in the UFA pool next season. You got to give him a call if a contract's not done by the end of the season. You have to. Again,
they're winning and winning big, and winning could change everything. Right now, all of a sudden, you're hearing that there's progress in the contract negotiations with him. A few months ago, it was like, oh, we don't know, I don't want to think about it. Now it changed. Because they're winning. Linus Ullmark.
They're not just winning. They're not just winning. They're the best team in the league. It's weird. Well, it's crazy.
Got 2 losses, and nobody's even talking about this. The guy's got 2 losses all season.
Yeah, they've only lost, I think, once or twice at home all season so far. That's insane. No, the Boston Bruins are very, very, very good. No, and of course,
they brought back the gang. They brought them back one more time, and these guys.
They went to Europe. They found Krejci. They threw him into a suitcase and brought him back. I mean, you're right. They brought back everybody. They really did. But I mean, my point is, and again, I come back again. He's not coming here. I have no illusions at all that he's coming here. It's fun. It's fun to think about. But even more to your point, it's unfortunate because it's hard to even have the conversation because of the way that the money's going to be. They just simply can't pay everybody, even with all the space they're going to have.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings here, but at the moment, Florida is beating Toronto. So,
listen,
the win streak is continuing, it would seem.
I mean, it was a nice thing to think about. But I mean, if everybody who was sitting there was banking on Florida's pick, I mean, you had to know Florida was going to start to win. Now, that being said, I think they still have to win at like a 3 out of 4 pace, like something like that. It's like a 700. They need a 600 or 700 or something to make the number that typically gets you into the playoffs. They might not make the playoffs. And then listen, crazy things happen. They have a 0.1% chance or something. It happens. Can you believe Dandanov just scored? A little sidebar there. Unbelievable. But anyways, it's always possible. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah. Trade him now. His value's up.
Out. That's it. He's on fire.
He's on fire.
But yeah, I mean, listen, crazier things have happened. I mean, I think most people have to actually live in a real world where, it's more likely than not that the Canadiens pick will be somewhere in the top, let's call it
It'll be in
6
the
or
top
7.
10. It'll be in the top 10.
Oh, top 10 for sure. Is it going to be in the top 5?
I don't know if they're going to make it to the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's more the question. And then the Florida
I
pick
don't
is
know.
more a question. Is it going to be in the top 15?
San Jose would have to go on a pretty significant win streak, but Montreal would have to be losing at the same time.
Well, one of those things is going to happen.
Yeah, San Jose is probably going to go on that losing streak because have you seen their roster?
Well, no, I was going to say Montreal is probably going to be losing.
With rumors that apparently Timo Meier might be on the move too, and it's like, who the heck is going to score goals on that team anymore?
I mean, I don't know. I guess the thing I'm most excited about, besides watching the team actually play and seeing the kids out there and then seeing what they're capable of, like I said, like watching Ylonen play recently has been very, very fun for me. Because this is a guy I've been watching the AHL for some time, and I'm like, there is flashes there. I think this guy can really do it. And I think one of the biggest things that held him back when he was called up in last year and the year before, you can't put him on the fourth line. That's not the type of player he is. He's not a fourth line player. It's nice to pair him with guys that are a little bit more offensive minded because you can see some magic happening there. So you give him a chance. I mean, they called up Rafi Harvey-Pinard for this game. They brought back Rem Pitlick, who is torching the AHL, but can't quite make it an everyday in the NHL. So he's a real in-betweener type player, but can easily be on your fourth line. Like I can see that happening, and he's signed. Hey, Hoffman just scored 2 now. Oh my God, what is happening?
The fans are upset.
It's just listen. I want to see the kids get a chance. I want Hughes and Gorton to get a chance to see what they got there. And then I want to see some pretty big moves. Like I want to see them, starting to ship guys out of here because it has to happen. It's not one of those things like, oh, should they? No. This has to happen for this team. And other teams are going down too. It's just a matter of how are they going to make it work. And that's what I'm probably most excited about. At this point of the season, I'm most excited to wake up one day and see in Twitter what kind of craziness they're going to work out, salary retained here and there, pick from next in drafts in 3 years from that. I don't know what the hell they're going to do, but they're going to do something. It's going to be something really, really crazy. I'm sure of it. Mark my words.
Time will tell, and we're not that far off or far away from the trade deadline. So
yeah, I think what is it? It's 2 months about. We're 2
Less.
months away ish, a little less. It's going to be here faster than you think, and it's going to be exciting to see. That's for sure.
The NHL trade deadline is actually on March 3rd.
March 3rd. All right, so there you go. Less than 2 months away. So it's very exciting stuff. Mostly probably a lot more losses in the future for the Habs, which I guess, again, pro-tank team, yay. You just hope they don't get embarrassed. I think that's really the key to it at this point. Let them lose, but don't lose 8-2. Don't get embarrassed. We want to see 5-4 losses, maybe an overtime loss here and there. We want to see Caufield hit 40 goals. We'd like to see Suzuki get 70 plus points. This would be the kind of losing that I think most people would be very, very happy with. And then bring me to the trade deadline, and then bring me to the draft, and bring me to free agency, and
it's all we could look forward to, man.
That's what we're looking forward to. It's going to be fantastic. On that will conclude the first episode of 2023. Yes, we're delayed, of course. Again, apologies, but again, like we say every time too, we're hoping to get these out a little bit more frequently. Stay tuned. Keep an eye on the social media, of course. We always mention when there's a new episode out, so you can always pop in and check. If you're not subscribed, consider doing it. We'd really appreciate it. You get the little notifications when a new one comes up. You know the drill. Otherwise, if you got anything that you want to add, anybody, please go to the comment section. We always like to interact with anybody who's willing to take the time to write something, who you think would be a great addition to the team in the offseason. If you can see Hughes and Gorton swinging for the fences, that'd be fun. David Pasternak type, he's not coming.
And I just want to say, and for those people who just because there's we make a take or we say something on the episode that you may not like, doesn't mean the whole episode is bad. You don't have to dislike the episode.
You know what? You're allowed to do whatever you like. We like any interaction. You think our takes are complete trash? write it. No issues. If you guys think something you want to say it, write it. And if it's really something that's cool, we're more than happy to talk about on the next episode. We've seen a couple things that were brought up that tweaked the questions that we were ultimately going to talk about. So please do so. We love the interaction. And that's what we got for today. So for Vito and myself, Dave not here, this was Get Pucked.